This episode is brought to you by Sterling Soap Company. How often do you think about your soap? Well, if you answered, not much, maybe you should. You see, a lot of what passes for soap in stores is technically not soap, according to the FDA's definition. It's full of lab-created chemicals and detergents because, well, it's cheaper to make. Now, what if you could buy natural soap made from natural ingredients like tallow, palm oil, coconut oil, and scented with essential oils, and for just a little more than you'd pay for grocery store soap? Sterling Soap is 100% natural, and with a wide variety of bath soaps, shave soaps, beard balm, lotions, and cologne, there's a product and a scent for just about everybody. Check them out for yourself at sterlingsoap.com. That's STIRLING soap.com.
Hey there, sports history fan. This is Darren Hayes, host of the Pigskin Dispatch and Jersey Dispatch podcast. I hope you've enjoyed another great episode here on Sports History Network. Now, speaking of sports history, this episode was brought to you by Firefly Books, and they have two great ones for you this summer. For basketball fans, they have the NBA 75, the definitive history by author Dave Zarum, who's appeared on our Jersey Dispatch podcast recently. He tells about the experience, the thrilling journey of the NBA, from its humble beginnings to its modern glory. Uncover the untold stories of triumph, controversy, and the greatest stars of the game. This isn't just a book. It's courtside seats to over 75 years of NBA history. And for the golf enthusiasts, swing into The Golf Round I'll Never Forget by Matt Adams. Relive 50 of golf's most memorable moments through the eyes of the legends themselves. From Garcia's triumph at the 2017 Masters to Nicklaus' miraculous 1986 comeback, it's the closest you'll get to walking the fairways with golf's greatest. Get your summer read on. Grab a copy of NBA 75 or The Golf Round I'll Never Forget, available online or at your favorite bookstore.
This is Basketball History 101 with Rick Loayza.
Welcome back to Award-winning Basketball History 101, part of the Sports History Network. I am your host, Rick Loayza, and this is the podcast where we bring to life some of the forgotten stories from basketball history. We are bringing old school basketball to a new school audience, and today we bring you the story of Jeremy Lin before the explosion that we all know as Linsanity. At its core, this is an underdog story. Now, we all know how Jeremy Lin exploded on the NBA scene seemingly out of nowhere. He was the first Chinese-American athlete to ever make it in the NBA. Then there were those 2 weeks while he was playing for the New York Knicks where he played like an all-star. He played like a superstar, but after those initial 2 weeks, he seemed to come back down to earth as an above-average starter. And for all of the hype that came with Linsanity, he only played 35 games for the Knicks, and yet that is the team that he is most associated with. He actually played more games than that for 5 other teams. He played 37 games for the Nets, 51 games for the Hawks, 74 games with the Lakers, 78 games with the Hornets, and 153 games with the Rockets. But the Knicks are always the team that you think of when you think of Jeremy Lin. But as I said, this story is not about Linsanity, because that story has been told over and over, and there are a couple of really good documentaries about it. Now, this is a story about who Jeremy Lin was before he joined the professional ranks of basketball. He grew up in the city of Palo Alto, California, which is also home to Stanford University, the school that Lin had dreamed of playing for since he was a kid. Lin was one of those kids that nobody ever thought would one day be an NBA player. And this has nothing to do with the fact that he was Chinese, although that seemed to be a big factor once he finally made it to the NBA. No, the reason that Lin was the kind of player that nobody expected to play in the NBA is because when he was 14 years old and just starting high school, he was only 5'4" or 160 centimeters. And it makes sense. His father is only 5'6" and his mother is only 5'2". I mean, he was a tiny player by any reasonable basketball standard. However, he was always one of the best players on all of his youth teams. But what does that really mean? Being the best player on a local suburban youth team is nice, but there are tens of thousands of such teams all over the United States. I used to coach in my local youth league when my kids were younger, and I have seen a lot of players who were the best player on their team when they were 8 or 9 or 10 years old. And most of those players never became good enough to even play for their high school team when they got to that age. This is the kind of player that Lin was when he was 13 and 14 years old. A nice, decent player, but he was so short that it was a wonder that he even made the high school team. But the one thing that he had, and this is according to his youth coaches and his high school coaches, he had a basketball IQ that defied his age. He seemed to understand the flow of the game. He knew when to dribble by his man for a shot and when to pass to help a teammate get an easy layup. And he was quick, unusually quick. And the one thing that everyone who was around him back then says is that he was such an incredible worker. He spent hours in the gym working on his skills to become the best player that he could be. And he was also an amazing student. In his third year of high school or junior year, he was supposed to play in a regional championship game, but made the unfortunate decision to play in a pickup game the night before. He injured his ankle in that pickup game so severely that he was unable to play the next day when his high school team was playing for that regional championship. He wanted to go somewhere where he would be taken seriously as a player. And that is where Harvard University comes into the picture. In the United States, Harvard is considered the most prestigious university in the country. It is also the most difficult American university to get into. But Harvard is a Division I basketball program, even if it is at the bottom of Division I. And Harvard does not offer athletic scholarships. It is part of their school policy being a member of the Ivy League. So they definitely wanted Jeremy Lin to come to Boston to play for them. But Lin would have to pay his way through school just like any other student. And that is where he went to school, as an undersized point guard. But he was still only 5'10" when he started at Harvard. He already towered in height over his parents, so there was no reasonable expectation that he would continue to grow. But grow he did. By the end of his second year at Harvard, Lin had grown to his full height of 6'3" and had put on about 20 pounds of muscle on his frame. He had physically transformed into somebody who looked like he might actually have a chance to play in the NBA. By the time he was a senior, the possibility of a career in pro basketball seemed like a real possibility. He was on the radar of most NBA teams and was invited to the NBA Combine after his fourth and final year at Harvard. The NBA Combine is an annual event where the NBA invites the top 100 or so players who have a chance to be drafted by an NBA team. Lin, by all accounts, tested extremely well. He had good strength, excellent speed, versatility to play either point guard or shooting guard, and in the scrimmages, he outplayed many of the top players. He more than held his own against John Wall, who would later be selected as the first pick in the entire draft by the Washington Wizards. Some thought that he might be selected as high as 15th in the 2010 draft. However, at the end of the draft, Lin was not selected by anyone. When a player goes undrafted, he still has a second chance to make the NBA. Most of the undrafted players end up signing with one of the 30 NBA teams to participate on their summer team, where they will have a chance to practice with the team's coaches and play in games against other first-year players. This was a second chance for players like Jeremy Lin. Now, he played well enough in that summer team to get signed by his hometown team, the Golden State Warriors. He played 29 games for them as a rookie, but then was cut to make room for another player that the Warriors wanted even more. And the reason he was even signed by the Warriors in the first place has to do with the fact that Lin had played on a summer team as a teenager with the son of the owner of the Warriors. Joe Lacob, the owner of the Warriors, had seen Lin play as part of that summer team from years earlier and really liked the way that Lin played, so he gave him a chance. Sometimes in real life, it is who you know that can change the course of your life, and in this case, Lin knew the owner of the Warriors. After his time with the Warriors, he ended up in the G League for development players who still have hopes of making an NBA roster. The following year, he was signed by the Knicks as a temporary replacement player when they suffered a series of injuries to their guards. Lin was only supposed to be on the team for 10 days when the injured players started to return to full service. But then he was given a second 10-day contract when some of those injured players still were not ready to return to action. So he was near the end of that second 10-day contract when coach Mike D'Antoni decided to just throw Lin into a game because he had few options left. Everybody was injured at his position. Might as well give it a try. And that fateful day was February 4th, 2012. That was the day when Linsanity started. Well, that is it for today. Join us next week when we share another story from basketball history. That's next time on Basketball History 101, part of the Sports History Network, the headquarters of Sports Yesteryear. Go to sportshistorynetwork.com to find out more about this and other sports history podcasts. If you like what you hear, please hit that subscribe button wherever you get your podcast. And check out our page on Facebook. It's called Basketball History 101 Podcast. There you will find short historical posts, and I'll also announce there when new episodes come out. I want to thank my producer and editor, Jacob Loayza. Join us each week as we continue to mine the history of basketball for more great stories from the past. Take care and see you soon.
This podcast is part of the Sports History Network, your headquarters for the yesteryear of your favorite sport. You can learn more at sportshistorynetwork.com.
The Sports History Network, where legends live on and the past plays loud. Welcome to the place where history's proud, from gridiron glory to the hardwood stars, from the racetrack heat to Olympic bars. It's the voices, the stories, the moments you miss, told by fans and pros who live for this. Hook and Thimic, the Sports History Network, where the past comes alive. Podcasts and blogs that keep the flame high, from Babe to Brady, Alley to the Dome. If it's history and sports, then this is the home. SportsHistoryNetwork.com, the headquarters of sports yesteryear.